everybody? So we're back talking some more Season 3 of the Wheel of Time on the channel. After that awesome first 3 episodes last week, we're now back to 1 episode per week. If you watched my full review for Season 3, you would know that Episode 4 is one that is quite a heavy lore experience, predominantly focused around Rand and Moiraine. One that I have to imagine if you're a big fan of the books, you're going to really love this episode. For me, as someone that's going into this series as somebody that has not read the books, I still love the episode, but a lot of the different things in Episode 4 I definitely had to ponder upon a little bit more than my usual shows. For me, at least, I felt like this episode in particular showcased some of my favorite growth for Rand, discovering his purpose within all of this. Because up to this point, much like he reiterates to Lan, Rand has always felt like he doesn't belong because of how disconnected he feels to everyone around him. Now, I wasn't expecting Rand's journey in Episode 4 and the method chosen to discover himself, walking through the lives of his ancestors, to be such a literal, visceral experience, but I'm loving the journey we're seeing him grow as a character and accepting those responsibilities as the Dragon Reborn. Approaching this series as a non-book reader of the Wheel of Time, I gotta admit, I was kind of bummed out by the fact that Aviendha seems to be hanging up the cleat, so to speak, putting down her weapons. Understandably, this comes with her duties, having a strong mind and spirit are great and all, but she's also such a great warrior, highlighted by how awesome the skirmish was between her and Lan. Moiraine and Rand's dynamic has hit a lot of big snags in recent episodes. Rand lately has been a bit more abrasive, pushing back more than he's used to when Moiraine pries into what his plans are. From Moraine's perspective, I definitely understand the balancing act here. You know, the fact that she doesn't want to hinder Rand's destiny whatsoever, but you also don't want him to go out there and get himself killed either, since the majority of the people within this universe either want to kill him, cage him, but at the same time, I do kind of wish that Moiraine would try and get to know Rand more as like a person and not just an object for the oncoming war and the last battle. On the way to Rhuidean, albeit it was a pretty brief experience, seeing the Shaido was pretty cool. Aesthetically, their outfits are gorgeous looking. Kind of makes up for the fact that the majority of them, mostly Khal-Ladin, are not all that big a fan of Rand when they interact. From about this point onwards in Episode 4, this is where things start to get very trippy as they go off and do these trials in Rhuidean. To be fair, they did try to warn me ahead of time with Bear's words to Moiraine and Rand about what they're about to go and experience. Bear tells Moiraine she's going to find 3 rings, experience thousands of turns of the wheel, seeing things for her and not for her, while Rand is going to go in there and walk the footsteps of all of his different ancestors. And in Rand's case, like I said before, I didn't think it was going to be so literal. Side note here, how hilarious is it that Moiraine has to stop and get rid of like a dozen different knives that she had on her before they go? I was not expecting her to have so many different blades on her at all times. Once Rand and Moiraine set off on this journey and we see Rhuidean, foggy atmosphere, the architecture, even seeing Aviendha Sora, all of that looked fantastic. Given that a lot of the Wheel of Time revolves around prophecies, destiny, stuff of that matter, I was kind of surprised by Moiraine telling Rand about her uncle sort of causing the events to connect her and Rand, starting this war with the Aiel because he decided to chop down the tree and turn it into a throne. From an objective point of view, I don't know which of these two I felt worse for their trials in Rhuidean. I'd love to know your thoughts down below. Which would you rather do between these? I don't know which one I would pick because both of them looked pretty painful. I mean, we literally cut back to Moiraine and she's spinning around in agony. As for the multitude of different variations that Moiraine sees while she's inside the rings, there is an incredible amount of different possibilities, some of them more wild than others, which I guess is kind of the point. The overwhelming majority of them, I do hope, are the futures that do not come to pass. You have your variations where she kills Rand, releases Lan from their bond. The one that I found probably the most awkward of the bunch is the reality where her and Rand bond together, and that's saying something because the majority of these different variations are Lanfear killing her in increasingly brutal methods. The large takeaway from this trial that she has to endure is something that makes me nervous about the future for Moiraine as a character, especially since it's the main takeaway that Moiraine takes from the trials as well, is the overwhelming possibility that Moiraine have to die for all of their plans to succeed. An outcome that I certainly do not want because I enjoy Moiraine a lot as a character. As for Rand here, I really have to give a lot of credit to Yosha Stradowski. Moiraine, she has to show off, playing a ton of different ancestors to Rand, experiencing their lives, passing through the columns. The visceral nature of the walk itself deserves a ton of praise. I can't even imagine the amount of prosthetic work and wigs he had to cycle through in this episode alone. Ever since season 1 of this show, I've always thought the actor that plays Rand looks so much like a young Hayden Christensen. So when he puts on the one wig that makes him look so much like Revenge of the Sith Hayden Christensen, I felt very vindicated that I've always felt like they looked very similar. Besides that though, I also like the added backstory given for Rand's parents, getting a glimpse of his father, along with this other warrior ancestor to Rand that also is journeying to Meridian to walk through the columns. Some of these different ancestors' lives that Rand experiences are honestly pretty sad. The one that jumped out to me the most was when he ventures to rescue these people, kills the kidnapper, and his friend unfortunately is killed in the crossfire. All of that alone would be upsetting enough, but then you add fuel to that sadness because he's declared an oathbreaker because he used violence. His own people tell him to his face that he's now a stranger and cast him out of the Aiel. Two other ones intrigued me in very different ways. Firstly, the one that's a bit more futuristic looking, where the Aes Sedai give him the Sangreal before he rides off into the distance. Based on the description of Kalendor, which I believe we've heard already up to this point, and is something that Rand eventually wants to go out and get. I have to imagine that Rand's gotta go get that sword eventually. Admittedly, one other one that perplexed me a lot, probably partially due to my lack of book knowledge, was the one ancestor where he's viewing folks harvest while they're inside of this giant floating Death Star-like orb. And what Lanfear mentions in passing about finding a way to punch through the other side for power that's usable by both men and women. Thankfully, at least, both Moiraine and Rand passed their trials. I really love the visual of Rand's tattoos appearing on his arms, and then also on top of that, Avienda's reaction to them. That being said, I was kind of disappointed that Avienda was here this entire time and we just saw nothing about what she was going through. We panned to her like once or twice, the realization that she was also here, but we didn't get to see any of that stuff. If I had to guess, probably it was cut for time because this is already quite a lengthy episode. Of course, I have no idea if Avienda's stuff is in the books and they just cut that out for time or not. So you guys can let me know down below if you read the books, and I'm truly sorry if you were looking forward to it and they didn't show it to you. So yeah, despite the fact this is a very lore-dense episode, I had a great time visualizing all of this stuff in the trials, walking through the columns with Rand, and also seeing Moiraine's trial. I cannot wait to dive into more episodes because it just gets wilder and wilder as the season goes on. So make sure you share your thoughts down below. What did you think of episode 4 of The Wheel of Time? Did you like the episode? Did you not like the episode? Show your thoughts down below. Thank you guys, as always, for watching videos. I always do appreciate it. Make sure to like the video. Also, subscribe to the channel to update reviews, reactions, unboxings, and more. Until next time, I'll see you guys later.